Yes, welcome to the Vanguard Show on podcast, episode number 7, October 18th, 2020. I'm your host, Malik Ishmael. The Vanguard Show has been sponsored by the book From Old Guard to Vanguard, a second generation Panther by Malik Ishmael. And this is the month of October, which happens to be Black Panther History Month. And I have a legendary Panther in the house today, Brother John Bunchy Crear. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here with you, brother. All power to the people.
All power to the people. And I want to read your bio real quick. That might take half the show, though, but I'm going to go ahead and try to read it anyway.
All right.
All right. So, John Bunchy Crear is the founder of the 1977 reestablished Las Vegas chapter of the Black Panther Party. He was also a member of People's Party 2 and a member of the Houston and Oakland chapters of the Black Panther Party. He served in the party from 1971 until 1981. He is now the Southwest Regional Representative of the Black Panther Alumni Association and a resident of Houston, Texas. And again, he's a community organizer, public speaker, all the above. So, welcome to the Vanguard Show, brother.
Yeah, glad to be here. Like I said.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
tell me about the event yesterday in terms of a tribute or caravan to the ancestors. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, the National Black United Front, they have this every year, and what they do is, it's usually a large caravan, but because of the virus, it's just they caravan to Galveston, which is the beach here,
Yeah.
and they have a big ceremony at the beach, and and then afterwards, they normally would have an event at a community center in Galveston, because Galveston was where slaves were brought in to the South. Many
Okay.
of them came through Galveston,
Okay.
and so yesterday they had the event at their building, which they were reopening because they had a fire about 2 years ago,
Okay.
and it was really nice event, well attended, and they had a shrine to their ancestors, and we also had a shrine to the fallen comrades of People's Party 2 and Black Panther Party of Houston.
Right.
And it was a great event. And like I said, they finally getting back into the building. And like a lot of things, even out of tragedy, some good things come because now they have central air and heat.
Oh, that's good.
They used to just have they used to, Houston, the humidity, they used to just have window units, and it would still be kind of uncomfortable in there.
Well, I know what Houston is. It's a bayou city,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
with my folks being from Louisiana. That's
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Well, that's what we tell people here.
Yeah.
People talk about it's hot, and it's not the heat, it's the humidity.
Exactly. The difference between a sauna and say a oven, right?
Right. Definitely.
And I saw that there were some tributes, and of course, Sister Ayana Ade. She was one of the
Right,
ones. And we recently lost, my mentor, comrade, your comrade as well, and friend, Charles Boko Freeman. Can you kind of give,
right.
your take on your relationship with Boko?
Well, Boko, when I joined People's Party 2, Boko was one of the leadership. And of course, he did, being an artist, he did all our literature, like leaflets or booklets or whatever. He was very, very, very dedicated. And, that's one thing about, especially on a local level, the leadership did everything that we did. Uh,
Right.
he might go out and sell papers or whatever. And then his sister, Loretta Freeman, she also was a member. I think Loretta joined at around 15. And
Okay.
yeah, she's still with us. And so then
Sister Sandra Netta as well?
uh Sandra
Yes,
was
Sandra, right.
at the event yesterday. Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing about it is amazing because uh many of the people that Carl had recruited came from an area is Pleasantville, which was like a black suburb back in the day, and another area called Clinton Park, which is
Okay.
almost like my grandparents lived in Clinton Park.
Oh, okay. All
So
right.
then James Aaron, who became the chairman of the People's Party 2 when Carl was assassinated, he was from Pleasantville.
Mhm.
Steve Edwards, who uh, did most of the writing for us, and then he later wrote for the party newspaper in Oakland.
Okay.
He was from Pleasantville. You have Clark Frost was from Clinton Park. So a lot of these people grew up together.
Okay.
And they knew Carl, and they said Carl would go around the neighborhood. He was a dynamic speaker.
Right.
And Boko was from an area called Sunnyside,
Okay.
where many of black activists here came from. A brother by the name Duncan Tell, who passed maybe a couple of years ago.
Okay.
He was the head of the Black Heritage Society here, but he was from Sunnyside. And in fact, he came down on what was known as Dowling Street then when the police had a siege on that area back then. And then Boko, we always, just like most comrades, we kept in touch all through the years. He came up to Oakland briefly and then settled in L.A.
Okay.
And, as you know, he did many things there. He taught at a school there. He did several beautiful murals that are still there today in LA. In fact, he came back a few years ago. He kind of touched up one of the murals he had put up. So he's always been dedicated. And then he was a driving force behind like many of the Carl events we had here. He would come down and help us put them together and the whole thing.
Well, I think the first time I met you was actually when me and Boko flew down I think we were helping. Well, Boko was helping organize the Carl Hampton tribute in Dowling on Dowling.
Yeah,
right?
That was the 40th. Yeah, because it was because they had it at several different. The first night it was at this place called the Station Museum, which is a progressive artist, and Bill Jennings had a exhibit of Panther newspapers, and then Emory had his exhibit set up there, and then. The next day, like still on Dowling, Emory had an exhibit at what is owned by Project Row House, and that's another story. But he's a beautiful.
Okay.
And we had exhibits set up there, and we had everything going on in the park. And Kathleen came down, Bill Jennings, Emory. It was a beautiful event. But yeah, he was very instrumental in putting all that together.
Okay, and I think it was back in the '90s though, because me and Boko flew down. It had to be maybe '96, '97, and I think they had the Shape Center where we were doing a food drive prior to the event.
Yeah, Shape is still there. They just celebrated their 51st anniversary. They had a big thing last year for the 50th. In fact, Deloyd Parker, who is the founder and the director of Shape, he was at the event yesterday. I've been knowing him since 1971, so we always give each other a big hug and we love each other very much.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Well, being from Los Angeles, and I know that I didn't know that you actually had a connection to Los Angeles before even Texas. How did you know? Yeah.
Well, I was born here in Houston, in Fifth Ward. They called it the Bloody Fifth, but that's another story.
Okay, I know.
My father went to medical school in Los Angeles, so the family moved there in 1961. The plan was to move back to Houston once he finished, but everybody fell in love with LA. I mean, it's a very progressive place. Well, California's always been very progressive.
True.
And really, that's why I first started working with the party as a community worker. But before that, that's like we were talking about on the phone, it was a sign of the times. Because even in high school, I mean, we walked out twice. Once was to support a school called Fremont High School, which is all black. And they had walked out because of the conditions of the school and the books. They got all the secondhand stuff like we always had. So we walked out because my school was 80% white. But the whole student body walked out in support of Fremont. But also what we did, we tagged on some other things we wanted. We wanted the band the dress code. We wanted to allow, because teenage boys could wear shorts, girls couldn't. They had to wear what you call culottes, which is look like a dress but very short. So we wanted women to be able to wear shorts. We wanted to be able to wear beards. We wanted to be able to wear sandals, all that stuff. So we tagged all that on to. And we got all that because the second day we took over the administration building, the police came the whole year. And the other time we walked out was on Martin Luther King's birthday. And because we felt that they should have a program. So we walked out. The school walked out. I never forget the principal came out there. He was a white guy,
Okay.
Mr. Sanders, and he was crying. He said, "Please, please."
Okay.
And then he finally agreed. So I tell you what, if y'all come back, we'll go in the auditorium and we'll have a program. So we
Okay.
agreed to that. And then, so the school was, so then just like 41st and Central, when the police raided the Panther headquarters on Central, my
Right.
teacher, my photography teacher, brought a radio to class so we could listen to the whole thing going on.
Wow.
And so, like I said, it was sign of times. Everybody was involved. So I was at Northridge, Cal State Northridge was in the Valley.
Okay. Yeah.
And some friends of mine asked me if I wanted to go to a Black Panther Party political education class.
Mm.
And I said, yeah. So I went, and class was nice, and they offered something to eat afterwards. And I was like, man, I knew the brothers and sisters were struggling. At first we said, no, that's all right, but they insisted. So we
Right. serving the people.
yeah. So I started going on weekends and selling the Panther paper with a brother by the name of James Palms, who was a member of the Southern California chapter.
Okay.
And through that, I tell you how COINTELPRO.
Mm-hmm.
Now here I'm a 18-year-old student in college. I was on the weekends. I was going downtown selling papers. I'm in my room one day, and my mother comes in. She says, "Ricky, that's my nickname, my family nickname." She says, "Two gentlemen in the living room. They're from the FBI.
Wow.
And they want to." They want to talk to you. So I'm like, Mama, stop playing. She said, no.
Okay.
So all kinds of stuff started running through my mind. I'm like, what the hell are they here for? I said, maybe heard me talk about weed on the phone or something. I walk in, they showed their badges. And
Wow.
so I sat down and they said, asked me why was I a member of the Black Panther Party? I said, no. And so then they pulled this book out, thick book with all these pictures, and they kept asking me, do I know this person or that person? Right. But really what made me proud of my mother, she stopped them and she said, well, y'all asking all these questions. She said, I have a question for you. And so she told them, she said, well, J. Edgar Hoover says that the Black Panther Party is the greatest threat to the internal security of the United States. She said, well, what about the mafia? And so they kind of backed up and they said, well, man.
I love it.
Well, ma'am, they went to the salt and pepper. One of them was like, well, ma'am, the Black Panther, they do a lot of good things. They got breakfast programs, they got food programs. Then the other one chimed in, yeah, but, it's this violence. But really what pushed me over the edge is when they walked out the door and they were leaving, and they said, well, John, if you just stay in school, graduate, get a good job, and you'll never hear from us again. And so I'm thinking, I said, these excuse like
I can say it.
try to tell me how to live my life. Wow. If I stay on this straight and narrow path, then, because that really kind of pushed me over there just by them saying that.
Yeah.
Okay, so later that year, I made it back to Houston for my grandmother's. Well, she was sick first. I visited the hospital. She eventually passed, and so I was there for the funeral. And so I decided, I said, well, let me see if I can find the Black Panther Party office here. And which the party wasn't here, it was People's Party 2. But I rode down Dialing, and I saw the sign People's Party 2, and it had two Panthers on the side of it. And I said, oh, okay. So I pulled over, and that's when I met Boko, James Aaron, Claude Frost, Sensei.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I just started hanging out with them. And I tell you, the first time I went to jail in my life was, in fact, I took some of the comrades to a party with some of my friends in Houston, because I still have a lot of family here. Yeah. So when I was dropping them back off at the office, the police was messing with these two prostitutes across the street. So we stood there and watched. So when I pulled up, about a block later, they pulled me over. So I gave them a license and everything, and so one of the cops said, go get the ticket book. And I said, ticket book? I said, what am I getting the ticket for? He said, because you don't have no driver's license. I said, I gave you my driver. In fact, he said, you're not getting the ticket, you're going to jail. I said, jail for what? He said, you don't have no driver's license. I said, I gave you my driver. Yeah, it was not a Texas driver's license.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Anyway, I made the decision I was going to join People's Party 2, because the communists were struggling at that time. Their office had been raided not too long before that. Somebody had set them up and sold them some stolen guns.
Okay.
And so the police came in, uh, arrested several comrades. They got cases behind that.
Mm.
And so then me and I joined Peace Party too. So in '71, probably around August, myself, Boko,
Mm.
and Johnny Shotgun Howard.
Okay. Yeah, I heard of him.
He used to tell me, he said, Bunchy, Malcolm said by any means necessary. Because he was a street guy.
Right.
The police had kicked his eye out.
Wow.
His heel got shot off the night that Carl was assassinated.
Okay.
But he rode with me, Boko, Harry Taylor, Mick McGuire, and so we rode up to Oakland. We stopped to LA first. I went by and saw James Palm, so I told you I was so patient with him. And we went up to Oakland,
Right.
and we went in the office. Erica was there, and so we, talked. In fact, we got there in the middle of the night.
Uh-huh.
So down the street from Central was another office. Okay. And so we slept in the car in front of there. So the next morning, the Congress woke up, they were looking and saying, who
was that?
Man, why y'all didn't just knock on the door? Three of the border. But anyway, so we were there for a few days. I tell you, Shotgun, what made his whole trip was, that was during the boycott of Bill Boyette liquor store.
Oh, okay, right.
Because they had us doing assignments while we were waiting on their answer. Okay. And so Shotgun was on the picket line at Bill Boyette's, and Huey heard he was in town. Right. And he came down just to see him.
Right. Okay. All right.
That just made Shotgun. He was so heavy. So anyway, they approved us becoming a chapter.
Okay. All right.
So we left and we came back through LA because I was in college. I had $1,500 coming from a student loan. Okay. So I got that, and we took that. We went to Army Supply Store. We bought 3 M1 carbines and 2 shotguns.
Okay.
And all this was in my grandmother's old car, because when she passed away, she wanted me to have the car.
Oh, okay. All right.
That became part of the party. But so anyway, we drove back to Houston. We was all very proud and happy. Victor changed the sign, and that's how we became a chapter here in Houston.
Well, can you describe Carl Bernard Hampton for those who don't know? Because most people are, they are very familiar, obviously, with Fred Hampton, but the other Hampton should also be recognized.
They're related, but they're not. It just happened that last names happen to be Hampton. Right. But Carl, like I say, he grew up in Pleasantville. In fact, my mother taught him. My mother was a teacher in Pleasantville before we moved to LA. But Carl was he was a musician. Okay. Very. My mother said she remembers him well. He was a very good student. She was a pleasure to have in class. Right. So how he became involved with the party, he was traveling with his band, and they wound up in the Bay Area. Okay. So he started doing like I did. He started selling the paper, going to classes and all that. So before he came back to Houston, he asked, could we have a chapter, or could he start a chapter in Houston? Sure. And at the time, the party had expanded so fast that they put a halt on new chapters for a while until they knew who everybody was, what was going on. Yeah. So Carl was determined. So he came back to Houston, and he got him a job at the Sears, which is not too far from Third Ward, right in Midtown. He got a job as a dishwasher to raise money. Right. And then he got an apartment, and he started People's Party 2. And the reason he said he called it People's Party 2 is because the Black Panther Party was the Vanguard party, and they were the #1 party. Okay. So, like I say, he started to organize. They followed the 10-point platform program, all the rules and regulations of the Black Panther Party. They sold the Black Panther Party newspaper. And so about a week before his assassination on July 26th, was July 26, 1970, when he was killed. Yeah. They had established an office on the corner of McGowan and McGowan and Darling.
Oh, McGowan and
Darling. So Carl pulled up, and the comrade selling papers outside the office. And these 2 policemen was harassing him. Okay. So at the time, Carl was strapped. He had a .45 strapped to his chest, and he walked up and asked the policeman what was going on, what was the problem. So they asked him, well, what are you doing with that gun on your chest? So Carl told him it wasn't none of their business. He had a right under the law that open carry, he could carry a gun. So they started walking toward him, and Carl warned him. He said, don't come any closer.
Mm.
So they went for their gun, and Carl went for his gun. He was a quicker
Quick
to the
draw.
and so they backed off. Carlin backed off into the office, and then, so of course they called for backup. So all these police came, but what they didn't expect was all these people from the neighborhood came out
Yeah.
and started standing in front of the office. Say, "Hey, y'all not gonna mess with these." So for about a
Yeah.
week went by. There was no police or anything in the area.
Mhm.
People coming from all over. Black people was coming from all over Houston with guns.
Right. Oh, okay.
And
Wow. Okay.
yeah, like I say,
Yeah,
Sunny
Boko
Side.
did tell me that though. Yeah, he did.
They came from all over with guns, and so on the 26th, in fact, they were working with the New Orleans Police Department because New Orleans they had raided the projects and where the party had office in New Orleans, so they came to advise them or whatever. So on that day, on the 26th,
Mhm.
it was buses load of police, which nobody knew about,
Mhm.
you know, not too far circling the community.
Okay.
And so they sent 3 policemen to the roof of St. John's Church, which was the tallest building in the area. It's on Darwin. And they also had a reporter. This reporter, they had him because he had done an interview with Carl maybe a couple of days before that. So he was a spot call.
Okay.
And so they Carl, the Congress were having a rally at Emancipation Park, where we had the event at.
Yeah.
And these sisters came down. They said there was some white men up on the roof of the church.
Hmm.
So
And this is a
Carl,
black church, right?
it's a black church. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. They gave him the key. And
Wow.
another thing was suspicious is all the businesses on that they had closed that
Oh.
day.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It was a cafe, and this guy was he was doing liquor on Sundays in the
Oh
alley
wow.
behind this place. So
Okay.
all that was closed down. So that should
Wow.
have said something.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Carl and this white guy, Bartu Hale, he was a member of the John Brown Revolutionary Society.
Mhm.
And another car went down to check out what was going on. And Carl did have an M1 carbine, and John Brown was on. But they had a recording of the whole thing. And in the recording, you could hear the reporter say that, yeah, that's him. There you go, right there. And then you hear all these shots, and then you hear somebody say, hey, did we get him? And they say, yeah, we got that nigga. We got him. And it was a sister from the community,
Wow.
very brave. She was in the Volkswagen. She drove up and put Carl in her car and drove him to the hospital.
Oh, wow.
But he died earlier that next morning from his wound. Because they used them dumb bullets in the hole. But then they came in, like I said, the busloads of police came in. They arrested a bunch of. That Congressman Mickey Leland got arrested that night because he
okay.
came down to see he was a big supporter of the Panther Party.
Right.
He came down to see what's going on because Mickey was very funny. Because he was a state representative first,
Right.
and he was the one trying to help us set up a clinic.
Okay. All right.
They had the building. The police came by and shot the building up, and the health department said it wasn't in no shape for no clinic. But Mickey, he was by all the time. And I mean, what time he came by, he said, "Man, I want to join the Black Panther Party." We like Mickey. Look, you
Mickey
do.
Leland. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, he was a big supporter.
Oh okay. All right.
So he said, "Yeah, I want to join the Black Panther Party." And we like, well, Mickey, no, you do what you do. Keep doing what you do. We got this.
Okay. All right.
So he was a very big supporter. I mean,
yeah.
I remember driving down the street one day at Hester House, which was over in Fifth Ward Community Center. They were having a radiothon, and we listened to the radio, and this is State Representative Mickey Leland. I want to donate $500 in the name of the Black Panther Party. We like,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's what happened that night. And like I say, arrested a bunch of people, and they thought, their whole thing always is you take the head,
Right.
but really just made the movement stronger,
And that's Carl Bernard Hampton's picture in the back.
Yeah, right.
Who did that?
That's a drawing by Emory Douglas.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one right over my head, that's one of his drawings too.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Recognize that.
He's a good brother.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Another question I wanted to ask you is, what does the Black Panther Party mean to you, and why does it deserve to be remembered, celebrated, and studied?
Well, my whole thing is, one thing I'm very proud to being a member of the Black Panther Party because, in my experience, I tell people, let me just say this real quick. But
Certainly.
another thing about the COINTELPRO, when Richard Nixon was elected, 3 days before he was nominated, and this is got a recording of this. 3 days before his inauguration, he called J. Edgar Hoover, and he told J. Edgar Hoover that I want your #1 priority to be destroy the Black Panther Party.
Wow. Yep.
So,
Right.
you know, I just tell you, it came all the way from the top.
Wow.
You know, and it makes you proud because we always say, well, if we do our job, if they ain't messing with us, we gotta do our job. You know,
because you had a lot of groups around, and why were these this philosophy correct to liberate Black people, right?
So to me, you know, my whole thing, I tell people, we turned this motherfucker on top of his head.
That's right.
And they didn't know what to do. I mean, just like you had a bunch of, another thing, we were teenagers or young adults, you know what I mean, doing all this, you know, and just like with the programs, you know, it exposed the whole thing. We're saying, well, if these young Black men and women, if they can feed kids, if they can open up medical clinics, if they can have food programs, they can have free pest control programs, how come the government can't do that?
Exactly.
Which they eventually did because it forced their hand. Right. You know, just like you got Metro Live here. You know, we had the SAFE program for seniors. We would go around and pick up seniors around the first, because unfortunately you have some people that will take advantage of the weak. And they know the seniors get their checks and stuff on the first, and they would rob them. So we had the SAFE program. In fact, here, another thing that happened here was with Metro, it was the Black Panther Party that went before the city council and waged a campaign to have a senior discount, to lower the rate for seniors to ride the bus. And we were successful in doing that. So there's a lot of things that we did, and that's why people still talk about the party today. You know, some people want to dismiss us or whatever, but I mean, especially young people. I mean, when I was last October, we had the 50th anniversary of founding the breakfast program, and afterwards we had a deal over at the library where we had questions and answers. And this young sister came up to me. She was from Georgia, but she was going to UC Berkeley, and she almost had tears in her. She almost had me crying.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Wow. The impact. Yeah.
She wanted to thank me for all that we had done. And like I always tell all these young people, I get that a lot, and with much respect, want to thank you. No, but the thing about it, I want to thank you for participating now, because if the youth wasn't participating now, then everything we did would have been in vain. Okay. You know, exactly. And like all the youth that was in the street, I've never seen anything like that after George Floyd. You know, I was in LA doing the watch rides, or I've seen protests, but to go on and on and on and on across country, and it was diverse. It wasn't just Black folks, you know, it was brown folks, it was white folks. And so that really made me proud.
That's power of the people right there.
Right. Right. And that's the whole thing. It's just like the programs. Back, this is another little story with me and Boko. We used to count the police driving by the office, you know, for a time to leave, you know. So we were leaving, and so we saw Kevin. So we saw him. He turned the corner. He said, "Okay, let's go." So we get in the car. We go around the corner. It was me, Boko, and another comrade. And so we get around the corner. We make a right, and here they come. Okay. So they pull us over, and they get out their shotguns aimed at the car. And they took us out the car one by one. They told me first, the driver, get out the car. You know, you got any guns, weapons? Then they just put me in the car. But then the thing about it, like I said, the power of the people was that people came out their houses, and the police were telling them, "Y'all get back in the house." And they said, "No, we're not going nowhere." Okay. And by the time we got down to the police station, the press was there. Wow. Because the people had called them. Wow. You know, so then they took us upstairs to the intelligence division, and they apologized, talking about, well, they didn't know who y'all was. I mean, that's a bunch of crap.
Of course.
The only reason saying this is because the people came out.
Right.
Know? So that's the thing. That's one of the things the program did. It saved us in many instances.
Okay. And one thing I've always wanted to ask you, brother. Being from LA, having worked with with Boko and Kwaku in the movement there, Bunchy Carter was, obviously a very iconic person
Right.
in terms of the Black Panther movement. You had to name Bunchy as well. So explain how you got Bunchy and how it's received in the party, especially from some of the leadership that knew Bunchy.
Well, yeah, Prentice Bunchy Carter. Yeah, he was one of my heroes. I mean, I was
Likewise.
like I said, after the raid, me and my friends skipped this. I was in high school. We skipped school to go downtown. That's the first time I saw Elaine. She spoke.
Okay. Lane Brown.
They had a big rally at City Hall downtown. I'm talking about thousands of people. But anyway, so when I got to Cal State Northridge, I wrote a poem about Bunchy.
Okay.
And like I said, I remember some of it when Bunchy Carter Panther, bad as he can be. He always came out decked in styling so everyone could see. He was loved by the people in the neighborhood because he stood for justice and brotherhood. He was hated by the pigs and the orangutan, so then they began to plot.
Oh.
And he stopped.
Okay.
So that's a spot I had.
I like that.
But so the people at my college, the brothers and sisters,
Yeah.
they start calling me Bunchy. In fact, we'd be at a party, they'd stop the music and they say, Bunchy, say your poem.
Yeah, blow, or what say, Bunchy blow, right?
Party, yeah. So I would, say that. So the name stuck.
Right.
So yeah, when I came to Houston, well, when we came back through LA, like I told you, when we stopped at my college to get the money, where everybody was calling me Bunchy. So then, Boca and all them started calling me Bunchy. Okay. So all the comrades in Houston called me Bunchy. So then the story I was telling about is every week, you had to put in your order how many papers you want for that week, how many you thought you could sell or whatever. So it just so happened I answered the phone at one week and it was Elaine Brown.
Okay.
At the time, she was the editor of the newspaper, and she said, well, who am I speaking to? I said, well, this is Bunchy. She said, Bunchy? I said, yeah. She said, I want you to stop using that name. I was like, what? Okay.
Okay.
So when I got up to Oakland, because I came to Oakland, basically I went to visit my mother and my father and stuff in LA, and two of my friends drove me up to Oakland. I just wanted to visit Oakland again,
Right.
And I decided I was going to stay. So then I ran into Elaine again at the lamppost, which was a bar and restaurant, which we ran.
Okay.
My good comrade, we became real close. Darren Perkins.
Okay.
I go to the table I was sitting at. He said, well, the first lady wants to talk to you. That's what he called Elaine. That was during the time, the campaign.
Okay, right.
So he called the first lady. And so I go over to the table, and so she says, didn't I tell you stop calling yourself Bunchy? I said, yeah. I said, but I didn't call myself Bunchy. And at that time, everybody called me Bunchy, from John Seal, who was Bobby Seale's brother, June Hilliard, who was
right.
staff. Everybody called me Bunchy, so it wasn't nothing. So it's
right. Okay.
And me and Elaine became real close. In fact, she calls me Bunchy right today.
Okay. All right.
The first time I had seen her, I'm not saying how close everybody was. It was in 1978. She came to Houston for a speaking engagement. She didn't know I was going to be there. So I walked up to her and she looked and she said, Bunchy. I said, yeah. She said, man, we went to hell and back together. I said, yeah. Yes, we did. Wow. And she came back another time. We had we had some good times going over, going over old times. So the thing about the party, this is like with Ayana. I mean, we were on a panel discussion, and it was question and answer. So this one brother asked, well, what was it like being in the Black Panther Party? And you start thinking of all kinds of things to say. And Ayana point blank said it was hard work. She said, I said, damn, she was right.
That's true.
But it was true. Because when most people don't realize, we didn't get paid. We didn't go to work from 9 to 5. Then when we got off at 5, we were Panthers. It was 24/7, 352.
Right.
And but we love it. We love what we do because we love the people. And I do it all over again. We were all close. We lived together. We fought together. We fucked together. All that. Stuff.
All that stuff. And what was your interaction with Huey P. Newton?
Well, Huey. First time I saw Huey was we had a PE class. I saw him from afar. Him and Bobby Seale were talking, and they were going over the car. Who had the better car or whatever.
Okay.
But first time I met Huey was we had this theater called Fox Theater, beautiful theater. It stood about 2,500 people. It had an orchestra pit, it had dressing rooms up under it.
Okay.
So anyway, I was John Seal was running the theater. I was his assistant.
Okay.
And so Huey came in, him and Robert Bay, who was his aide, his security.
Okay.
And so when I saw Huey, I said, "Hey, Comrade Huey, how you doing?" Shook his hand. He shook my hand. He said, "Well, where's John?" I said, "Well, John's not here." He said, "Okay, well, follow me." So we went all around.
Right.
You know, one of the things I remember, we had a stand-up ashtray. And he said, "Well, the next time I come here, I want white sand in that ashtray for it." So before he left, Robert Bay pulled me to the side. He said, "Well," he said, "Bunchy, look." He said, "You know, call Huey, Comrade Huey, you call him a servant."
Okay.
He said, "And the next time he come, make sure everything he told you is done." I said, "Yeah, no problem."
Okay.
But then I became, because I became Bobby Seale's aide, I drove for Huey a couple of times.
Okay.
He was a genius. He was in then at the lamppost. The thing about the Bobby as the chairman, you saw him almost every day somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, Huey, you rarely saw. Main place he would go by is the school or the daycare center, which we call the child development center, or he'd come through the lamppost. Like he had a special booth with like a hotline with his own little phone right there.
Okay. All right.
And you know, when he would come to the lamppost, we would close. He'd sit around. He'd start talking.
Right.
The other thing, because I wound up in photography from the Fox Day. I didn't want to be in photography.
Okay.
You know, Erica at that time, she had seen my pictures I sent up from Houston for articles.
Right.
And so, plus that was my major in high school was photography. So
Okay.
she had told John Seal that she wanted me to be in photography. So John came to me and I said, "No, John, I don't want to be in photography."
Right.
So he said, "Okay, well, I'll tell her." So then he came back a couple of days later. He said, "Well, you know, Erica went to Huey and you go be a photographer."
There it is.
So, but it was a blessing aside because I got to work closely with Emory and
Okay.
the campaign was going on. So I was with Bobby and Elaine every day.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a good experience. But like I say, it was hard work. I mean, because we'd be like that campaign. I mean, it was the first time the mayor of Oakland had ever been in a runoff. He'd been in office for like 14, 15 years. And we got like 42, 43% of the vote. But we were out there. I mean, it was a people campaign. I think that's what these youngsters need to do today. But I mean, Facebook and all that's good and Twitter, but you got to touch people. But I mean, we get up every morning like 5 and we would get on the bus.
Right.
You know, people going to work. And Bobby would get on the lane, Bobby going, "Hey, I'm Bobby Seal. I'm running for mayor. This is lane, blah, blah, blah." And then we go down the aisles, or Congress go down the aisles, handing out literature. And then we get off at the bus stop and wait on the next bus. Okay. And then it was all day campaigning, you know. Right. And then in photography, like I say, it was hard work because after all that, then you had to come back in. You had to develop the film. You had to wait till that dry. Then you had to make proof sheets.
Right.
And once that dry, you had to take them over to Emory, but we had an office. They were across the hall. You had to take that over to them. They'd go over it. Okay, well, we like this picture. We want that picture. So then you had to go, you know.
Okay, right.
So you might be up to 12, 1 o'clock. And then you got to go back at 5 the next morning. So, but, you know, it was worth it.
Well, the interesting part is that Boko took me under his wing when I was in Los Angeles, and when we reissued the Black Panther newspaper later on, you know, past you guys' era, and I tell you, it was hard work. And then getting out there selling the paper, raising money for the paper. It was a 24-hour thing. And do you think there was a lot of burnout factor when it come to just how much work?
I know people were tired because just like Cindy Smallwood, she was through. She died in an accident in a van. Oh, and I know she probably was tired because I mean we put in some long hours. Yeah. I mean everybody, and then see, I mean just like with the paper was so important that they really tried to destroy or try to disrupt because first the distribution was in San Francisco. Okay. And the building was attacked. Well, we believe police
Right.
shot up, set on fire. So then it was moved to New York.
Okay.
And then after the split with Sam Napier, who was the head of disputes, he got killed.
Mm.
And then it was moved to Chicago.
Okay.
So the last place was Chicago. So then what we had to do, we had to, you had deadlines like any paper, but we had to have everything laid out.
Yeah.
Then we had to go to San Francisco and cancel this. They had these hippies that they would take negatives for the paper.
Okay.
And then you had to bring them back, and those were proofread again. And then we had to ship them to Chicago. So it was a whole process.
Kind of like a cycle thing, a national cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I was going to ask, when did you find out that the party was over? Because I recently had an interview with one of my other mentors, Dr. Kato Gato Cooks. They kept going for 2 years, not knowing that the Black Panther Party was over.
Yeah, well, they came, two comrades. I was in LA at the time. I had to go underground for a minute.
Okay.
And two of them comrades, in fact, James Aaron and Darnell White, they came to LA and they told me that Huey said for everybody to go home and just survive if everything was over. So that's how I found out.
Okay.
And then they had this magazine came out, I think it was called The New West, but they had a front page thing on the magazine talking about the party's over.
Okay.
And then what shocked me about that was they had so much information in this magazine. I'm like, where did they get this? I mean, I'm talking about people's nicknames we called each other.
Oh, wow.
It's
Well, yeah.
all in this article. And I'm like, where the hell did they get this information from? So, yeah, but that's how I found out.
Okay.
And, it was devastating. It was,
Yeah. And what have you been up to since then? I know personally what you've been up to, but past your life in the party, what are some of the things that you're involved with that people kind of know about?
well, I've always stayed active, and I do a lot of things like with Shape. We talked about Deloitte Shape earlier, which is a community center here that he founded back in 1970. So
Okay.
they are going on their 51st year. And then you also have a organization here called Say How,
Okay.
which is a youth center. And I try to help out there as much. But and then the Shrine of Black Madonna, they still have a church here, and they have a community center, and then just a lot of individual things. It's like the Lord would tell me. He said, "Man,
Right.
the Lord would tell me. He said, man, a lot of people don't know what you be doing." He said, "I know, I know."
Right.
I said stuff to him. I said, "The Lord, look, it's just between me and you. I don't need to." Because just like the party, I didn't join the party for no acclimates or no.
Right.
I'll go places. Just like with Elder Dimmer, she passed away a couple of years. She
Oh,
always kept a sign with, stop police brutality everywhere she went. She's like in her 80s,
wow.
and but I remember I came in one time. She said, "Oh, Bunchy, let me tell everybody you're here." I said, "No, don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that."
Wow.
Because I don't. That's not who I am. I'm just a
Yeah.
servant of the people.
Well,
So I try to stay involved as much as I can in whatever activities going on. And then, of course, we have our Alumni Association.
right. Okay.
So, every year
Because
we.
you guys give out awards and everything, and recognition
Yeah.
to
Well,
community.
yeah, right. Well, and then but we had the 48th anniversary of the party was here,
Mm.
and Dr. Gerald Horn, he was a keynote speaker, and Bobby Seale spoke, and we gave out awards there to, but one to Deloitte, one to the brother I mentioned earlier, Duncantail. And then I do a lot of, I can't leave out the National Black United Front, but I
Oh,
do.
oh, absolutely, brother Kofi, yeah, as well.
That Kofi's over here at almost every.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know Kofi. Boko introduced me to Kofi when we were down there.
They don't call him; they call him Kofi over there.
Okay.
So yeah, we cut it up, and I try to help out as much as I can with them.
Okay. And what future plans, any projects you have going on, and how can people reach out to you and contact you?
Well, really, right now with the virus, mainly, like I said, we were going to have a big thing this year because it was the 50th anniversary of Carl's assassination.
Yes. Yes.
And when the virus came up, we had to cancel everything.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
we were still on go almost all the way up to the end because
Yeah, 'cause I was headed down too. I was gonna come as well. Yeah.
people come, a lot of people coming, and so we're gonna hopefully be able to put that together the next, because we have something every year, but we want to have a big thing uh, uh, for them, and anybody can reach me. My email is like my name, Bunchy. It's BUNCHY00 at gmail.com.
Okay. And you have any social media handles that you wanted to give people?
Well, I'm on Facebook as John Crear.
Okay.
John John Crear, Crear.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, brother, it's been an amazing conversation. I know we're gonna have to pick back up on it at another time, but I'm very honored to speak with you.
I've got a lot more stories.
Oh yeah, yeah. We got to have a part two for sure. Well, brother, I really appreciate you coming on, and we're gonna try to arrange a part two, most likely Black History Month. I think we got some openings there, just so we can kind of go over some more of those wonderful and inspirational stories that you definitely have.
Yeah, when I just like to say to the youth, as my daddy used to say, keep on pushing. Because the thing about it is the struggle. And I know a lot of them get frustrated, but the struggle is just like the old saying, Rome wasn't built today.
That's right.
The Roman Empire didn't come down in a day. The struggle is protracted, and you got to keep punching. You get frustrated. I'm gonna say one more little quick thing. I remember we were over with Cameron, man. He passed away. Omar Wally Kipping.
Okay.
He was head of the All African People's Socialist Party here in Houston, and we over his house. So Omar Wally said, because he been fighting since the '70s. He said, man, he said, man, I thought back in the '70s, I thought the revolution was right around the corner.
Right.
He said, I hope we learned something. So James Aaron, he said, well, why we did learn something. Omar said, what? He said, revolution wasn't right around the corner.
There it is. It's a protracted struggle, not a spontaneous. Well, it's been an honor, brother, and we're gonna pick back up on it real soon. And peace and blessings to you and the family.
Well, same to you, man. Be safe.
All power to the people. Yes, sir. All right. Take care.